Tom West again. I guess a question to you, Jeff. If you're going to do speed testing, are you planning to use the tool that the CPUC has provided, which, you know, which is the...
I think we're planning to use, I mean, I'm setting up the tool that GeoPartners LLC has provided to
The problem is, the problem with using something like that, and I don't want to throw cold water on it, is then getting it accepted by the CPUC as valid data.
It's a reasonable question. I'll let Calvin speak to it because I'm sure he has.
This company was actually introduced to us by USDA, and the idea is that, and we have met with GeoPartners to understand exactly what the software is before moving forward, and they are, I would say, a consumer-friendly company that understands the ins and outs of the federal and state grant programs, the legislation, the community appetite, any of the above, to try to get as accurate data as possible. And I believe that this company and this style of mapping is ahead of where we are currently in California with mapping. So, and we have seen case studies with this company and others similar across the country that are a lot more granular and effective in collecting data. So I think it's worth a pilot project because, you know, we're not, they offered it to us, that we should move forward with it based on those results that could potentially influence the state on how we collect data moving forward. But when you say using the CPUC tool, Tom, are you talking about CalSpeed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
let me back off. I'm not trying to dispel what you're doing. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, whatever we do in Mendocino and Sonoma County has to have validity, or we have to be able to sell it as valid data to displace whatever the data are at the CPUC, which they call official. So we can take this offline. I think it's great that you're doing it, and I'm not here to suggest you don't do it. I just wanted to know what the tool was. So I now know. Thanks.
Based on M Labs speed testing.
We don't need to go into details. We can talk about how to alert the CPUC staff that you guys are doing something different.
And for everyone's information, the reason the CPUC does collect data, but that data tends to take a year or two to actually be incorporated in the data that we see. They're a little slow in implementing that data. So that's why the carriers have historically gotten away with accurate speed tests.
We're all on the same page about that.
And hopefully we'll be able to collate all the data that we collect and offer it as evidence of the need for funding to regions which might currently be unavailable. I mean, carriers might claim that they are providing service in a census block when they're not. And if we can collect enough data points, then we know that we can offer that information and challenge the carrier's data.
Great, terrific.
Take it offline as you suggest. So I will now, the floor is still open, but I'm going to bring up the slide, but my cursor has disappeared again. You should see the slide. Move 2030 and Una Workabow would be next on the agenda.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning. I just wanted to say hello to everyone and also say how pleased we are that Jeff was able to manipulate the system and add us into the March 22nd presentation to the Board of Supervisors, and working with Jeff in a presentation that really portrays the needs of our county and the need to act swiftly, if at all possible, to further many of these initiatives. We all know that the longer we wait, the bigger the problems become. And so being able to act swiftly with good concrete data is really important. And again, we're really looking forward to presenting on March 22nd along with you guys and working together as a team as we move forward with overcoming many of these challenges and incredible action items that we have heard back from the community, including the need for broadband. Without broadband, we can never have a vibrant economy. And so they definitely go hand in hand. So thank you all for all the hard work you've been doing.
Thank you, Una. And I believe that the lineup on the 22nd is like 9:30, Move 2030. We'll have a half-an-hour presentation followed by the Broadband Alliance.
Correct.
Just for those who aren't immediately aware of those details. And I've also haven't relayed this back to West Business Development Center and Move 2030, but there is a possibility that there'll be a little more flexibility with regard to our timeline, depending on negotiations with solid waste management or something like that. If that item that was put on the agenda for that day is resolved ahead of time, which I am told that it might be, then we could have a little more latitude with regard to our timelines.
Fantastic. All right, that's wonderful. Thank you for that update. And sure. I believe you're going to be joining our meeting at noon. And if so, I'm sure everyone would like to hear that as well.
Okay, thanks. I hadn't seen the link, so
I will resend it to you right now.
Much appreciated. I think that next on the agenda, I had invited Devin Jones of the Farm Bureau, but as it is, I don't see her on, but I'm trying to juggle things. So after that would be pending or recent legislation. And I haven't really prepped very much I've been concerned about the half-hour presentation over the past week and working on 5 separate PowerPoint presentations. So the pending legislation that was listed on the agenda is SB 4, AB 14, and AB 41, as well as AB 34. And the first two, SB 4 and AB 14, were the 2 bills that were discussed at the end of the 30-minute presentation. And Emily Tecchio also briefly mentioned AB 41, which is the Dig Once bill that is being carried by Assembly Member Jim Wood. There is not really a whole lot of detail on the bills at this point. There's works in progress. So this portion of we'll be very brief with this portion of the agenda. If anyone has any comments that they would like to add or questions that they might have about the legislation, Tom and I, as well as others in the know, might be able to field those questions. Additionally, there is at least 60 federal bills, all with money attached, that are coming down the pike with regard to broadband. So it's a promising landscape for funding of broadband. But it's
just how many?
60, I'd say.
60?
Correct.
Oh, that's good.
And I may have misspoken. I mean, there are 60 broadband bills, and a large portion of those have funding attached. And time will tell whether or not they pass. So the next update would be with Calvin Sandine and Sonoma County Regional Broadband Activities.
Hey, yeah, not much to report. We are moving forward on creating a broadband action plan, and we're working with a consultant, Magellan Advisors, and the broadband action plan is pretty much just it is exploring the creation of a public broadband entity that would be in like a quasi-governmental entities similar to other in Sonoma County. I guess we have like Sonoma Clean Power, Sonoma Water, or SMART, which are joint powers authorities. And so we are exploring this idea of creating this entity and using existing assets, infrastructure that we have to kind of jumpstart us on our network, and then deploy new infrastructure branching off of that. So we are creating this plan, and we are almost done with it. We're presenting to our Board of Supervisors in May 11th, I believe. And following that, we will be creating an advisory committee to figure out what would be the best structure for this entity starting off, whether it is a JPA or some other type of structure, and just walking through that process. But we are ideally, we would like to do this quickly with all this. There's with all the new federal and state funding that's coming up, there's looks like there might be some really good opportunities for kind of government sponsored organizations or grants or networks. So if we can get this in place and a JPA in line or whatever, then we would be able to apply for these grants or funding opportunities using that organization for infrastructure. So that is what we are currently working on, and the model is trying to be as inclusive to the private sector as possible. We are basing it on an open access network, so it's like an interstate highway, and anyone has the right to use it. But this entity is the infrastructure owner and manages the network. So that's currently what we're working on, and then on top of that, the mapping effort with working on that with Jeff and Geo Partners. So that's all I have for an update. Any questions?
No questions, I guess, but thank you.